We find the best person in the country we can hire. We pay whatever it costs because it's an accelerator. It's a process through which you a time collapser, and it helps you massively also avoid mistakes. And mistakes can be extremely expensive depending on what business you're in. But these books I kept because they're thoroughly worked through with dog ears and highlights and marks, and they gotten us through, amongst other things, they gotten us through the hard times of low motivation. So the first step in our system is that we focus on people, on areas, on three kind of areas. Either infill lots in the city, those are the hardest to get. You have to do a lot of effort to get those, but then you make a lot of profit.
And that is coming up next on Bootstrapping Your Dreams Show, so stay tuned. So, the big question is this: how are ambitious people like us, who don't have a lot of resources, did not go to Ivy League colleges, were not born into wealth, how do we become resourceful enough, use our creativity, our dedication, and a little bit of crazy to bootstrap our way to realizing our dreams? Whether it is launching a new company, launching a new app, or making it to the top of the corporate ladder. That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. We have created a tremendous community of bootstrappers, entrepreneurs, and professionals who are ambitious, resourceful, and want to get things done. We brainstorm, support, and help each other out. So come join us. Navigate to bootstrapping.group, join today, and get the Startup Founders Technology Accelerator video series absolutely free. If you enjoyed this video, then do let us know by hitting that like button now. Or if you want us to improve our content, then go ahead and hit that thumbs down button and give us your honest feedback in the comment section below. Here at Tetranoodle, we are passionate about entrepreneurship, technology, and innovation. Every week, we bring you insightful and engaging videos, interviews, tips, tricks, and strategies to help you grow your business or rise in your corporate profession. If you're new here, please do consider subscribing, and do not forget to hit that bell icon so that you are notified when we publish new content. Hello and welcome to this new episode of Bootstrapping Your Dreams Show. I'm your host Manuj Aggarwal, and today we'll be talking with Jack Bosch. So since 2002, Jack has been buying and selling lots and unimproved land and has flipped more than 4,000 transactions. It only took him and his wife Michelle 18 months to go from zero to $1 million. Since 2008, they have been educating those who either find houses too challenging or are unsatisfied with the competition, and teaching them how to make more money from simple land and lot flips. Plus, they have figured out a way to make land cash flow massively and consistently with checks coming in for years and even decades. Welcome, Jack.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, Manuj.
All right. So, seems very intriguing, this business that you're working in. Real estate is always a fascinating industry to learn more about. But tell us a little bit about your journey before we get into the business. How did you get started, and how was that journey? Did you have any challenges in the initial phases of your entrepreneurial journey?
Yes, be happy to. So it started out, first of all, I'm not from the United States. I live in the United States. I am an American citizen now, but I'm originally from Germany. So my journey started with me being being on this traditional path of like go to high school, go to college, get a good job, and my plan was to do a career in corporate America, basically. And then I thought there's one thing missing, and that is that I don't speak well enough English. Right, the world is turning to English, and more people, in order to make a career, you got to speak English. So I said, I had a chance in my last year of college, instead of spending that year in the United States, in Germany, to spend it in the US, get in that process an MBA, but also get credit for the classes I took in the US and get credit for that in Germany. So basically I was like, that's like three birds in one, and this is three things accomplished in one act, right? I get an MBA, I show my future employers flexibility, that I can travel, that I don't mind, and things like that, all things that employers were looking for. I improved my English, and I finished my German college degree. Wonderful. So I did that. Well, that was 22 and a half years, almost 23 years ago. and I'm still in the United States. So I basically came here, fell in love with the country, and met my wife, who is not from here either. My wife is from Central America, from Honduras, and we decided to give it a try here. So we got that job. So I was lucky. I got a job, and I was. And out of like 10 Germans that were in their college, all wanted to get a job. I was the only one got lucky. Don't ask me why I had the worst grades of all of us. But the point is, I got a job, and shortly into that job, I realized that the entire career thing that everyone was talking about, that I was like kind of brainwashed and schooled towards, wasn't what I wanted to do. I just realized this is I had put my ladder against the wrong tree here. Now, I love business, I love things, but I worked in a software company at that time because that's the only company that was growing so fast. And I had a little bit of background in Germany because having worked as a student worker in a similar kind of company in Germany, I really didn't. That's why I got my job. But it's not where I wanted to be. I didn't see myself as a software guy, as an implementation consultant, and so I started really disliking and worse than that, I really hating my job. And on top of that, then there was a recession coming, and lots of people were laid off, and my wife and I just looked at each other and we were like, this is not what we want to do for the rest of our lives. So we decided to find something else that we could do. But as you might know, from when you come here, I had the H-1B visa, like many people, right? And then you can't just quit your job, because if you quit your job, you lose the visa, because the visa is tied to your job. And I realized I needed to do something. So I realized I needed to find a plan B that over time I could make into a plan A at the moment I got my green card. And that's exactly what we did. We looked into real estate. We looked at all kinds of real estate, and ultimately we found a method that allows us to remotely, from the comfort of this computer table here, from my home office, allows us to buy and sell pieces of land that others can no longer want, that we can get for literally 10 or 20 cents on the dollar, and flip them for sometimes 10 times what we bought them for, and do that without ever seeing these properties, which allowed me to do this while I was traveling, while I had a job, which allowed me to do this while I had no money really, because the first deal we bought for $400 and sold for $4,000. The next deal we bought for $500, sold for $10,000. And then we bought properties for $2,000, sold under $2,000, sold them for $80,000, and so on. So we started doing this more and more, and within 10 months we were debt free. We had money on the sidelines. And then the green card came, and that's when we quit. And then we went full force, and we have done over 4,000 such land flips ever since.
That's awesome. Now, did you uncover this method on your own, or did you have a mentor, or how did that come about?
I wish I had a mentor. I think mentorship is the most important thing in life. It's like now, anytime we learn something new, now we also invest in large apartment complexes. We currently have a 158 unit apartment complex under contract. We syndicate that. We bring investors in. It's obviously a completely different, much more complicated deal. And when we first learned that, we got a mentor. Anything else we learn now, we have a mentor, right? We find the best person in the country we can hire. We pay whatever it costs, because it's an accelerator. It's a process through which a time collapser, and it helps you massively also avoid mistakes. And mistakes can be extremely expensive depending on what business you're in. So having said that, no, we did not have a mentor back then, because there was nobody who was teaching that. We did indeed stumble into that through the process of first looking into tax liens and tax deeds, not being satisfied with the opportunities there, and then finding a way that we could circumvent the entire tax lien and tax deed world and go directly to the owners and buy these properties from them for like 5 to 25 cents on the dollar. And it took us almost 3 years to figure this out. That's why with a mentor now, I don't want to spend 3 years figuring something out. I'd rather pay somebody whatever it costs and then learn it in a matter of 6 months.
Yeah, that's for sure. Now, did you on this podcast, we focus a lot on mindset and positive thinking. So as you were sort of uncovering this secret formula over 3 years, did you run into any challenges and roadblocks where at some point you may have thought about giving it up or whatever. And can you describe those initial years and how they were, and what kind of mindset did you have to develop to actually get through that period?
I'm more than happy to. As a matter of fact, yes. I mean, obviously the answer is yes. As a matter of fact, all the time. I mean, all the time I came across situations where I wanted to give up, and that was more on the inner game side of things. Because, for example, we had no mentor, so we had to do trial and error. And trial and error over a course of 3 years is almost, it's, we gave up many times in between. We gave up for 3 months, and then we said, like, come on, there must be something to this. Let's start again. What made us continue was really that we had built up a big reason why. So the reason why, what was propelled us forward. And our reason why was actually multifold. And now we teach our land flipping method. Now we have courses and seminars and things. But when I go up on stage, I try to instill that same method that I have done into all our students. And in essence is that you got to find not just one reason why, you got to dig for reasons why. You got to dig through your life every time you felt like, I don't know, disrespected, every time you felt bullied or somebody, if you were bullied. Luckily, I don't think I was bullied. But every time you felt like you saw, you see people around you. So in other words, we made a list. We look at this, like we look at it and say, like, okay, if I do this, there's 2 reasons people do something. One, to get away from something, one, to go towards something, right? So one thing we realized is that if we don't do something, our method, or if we don't figure out something, I will be stuck in this miserable 100% travel job where you leave from Monday mornings at 6 a.m., going to some Holiday Inn Express, eat bad food, gain a whole bunch of weight. I gained like 15 pounds in the first 3 weeks I worked in that job. I bought a pair of pants and it had to be hemmed. And I couldn't pick them up for 3 weeks. And after 3 weeks, the pants were too small. I could not fit into them anymore. And I never wore those pants ever. So just an example. So, and it's like, if I don't do this, I will be stuck in that job. So the first reason was to get out of that job. Second reason is my wife and I were separated from each other. We had married by that time. We were separated from each other Monday to Friday. So Saturday, we spent grocery shopping, cleaning the house, and Sunday, we spent resting, and then Monday I left again. What life is that? Like, that's not the life I wanted to live. That's not what I had envisioned. And if you're stuck in one industry for like 10 years, you have a hard time breaking out of that industry. So I saw this like, oh my God, if I don't find anything else, I'm going to be stuck in this industry, doing something I don't like for the rest of my life, and this is just not going to happen. So that propelled me through the down times of motivation and things like that. But then other things, like, for example, we saw my dad was aging, and he was a high school teacher for 41 years, and he just did not want to do it anymore. He was tired, he was exhausted, and I was really honestly afraid that he had 3 years to go, that if he would go all the 3 years, he would literally either not make it or barely make it and then pass away shortly afterwards, because his health was going down so quickly. Yeah. So I was like, I have to do this. I have to figure this out in order to make the money so I can early retire my dad. And that put a big pedal to the metal, because now it was like life or death kind of thing. If I don't do this, my dad is not going to be around anymore. And so we put the pedal to the metal like crazy. We had just figured it out, and half a year later, we were able to retire my dad. Right? Awesome. So these are things like that kept us going. Like, it was getting away from the pain, getting away from potential pain, but then obviously also getting to a point where we envision ourselves, like I coined this word called luxury bohemian, in a sense. Like, I love sitting in street cafes and drinking a cup of coffee and reading a book, and we do that for the last 4 years. We've been every single year in Paris, and that's what we do there. We hang out. We look at the museum, and we sit, have a nice lunch, and we drink a coffee, and we drink a glass of champagne or wine, and just like just enjoy life. And I did that in college, kind of like that, just not as a luxury, as a really shoestring budget. Mm-hmm. And I love that kind of a lifestyle, and so we went towards that lifestyle. And it's like, I got to figure out that I can make something out that I can make that lifestyle work again. And those things. And then along with that, we took books. Like, I read multiple books that kept me motivated, like Mark Victor Hansen, Jack Canfield, all this. They have multiple books, The Millionaire like the 1 Minute Millionaire or the Butterfly something. I don't even know exactly, but anymore. But I remember when we moved half a year into a new house, and I threw a lot of books. I gave a lot of books away to Salvation Army or to Goodwill. But these books I kept because they're thoroughly worked through with dog ears and highlights and marks, and they gotten us through, amongst other things, they gotten us through the hard times of low motivation.
That's awesome. A great story, by the way. Now, whenever I talk to somebody who is doing real estate, and they tell us about this method where you have very low investment, but you make a tremendous amount of profits, and you don't have to use your own money. It sounds like those late night commercials that used to air.
Sounds like a snake
I'm
oil
just
man.
Yeah, I'm just being a devil's advocate here, so that
Sure.
we can get to the bottom of this strategy. So, can you tell us how, do you encounter these kind of comments? First of all, skepticism from people
Of course.
who come in. Yeah. Okay.
Of course.
So how do you counter that? How do you counter that?
Well, I don't. I counter them by saying, yes, absolutely, there's work involved. Like anyone that tells you that you wake up tomorrow wealthy if you buy their program is obviously a snake oil man. No. What you have to look at, though, is that is it first of all possible? And the answer is yes, it is possible. So it is possible to buy a house for $100,000 that's really worth 180 because it needs all kinds of repairs, and the person needs to be out and so on. They need to move out quickly, and then sell that house for $130,000 to somebody else, who then makes the fix-ups and then moves in or sells it or rents it. That is totally possible. It is also possible to buy a piece of land for $500 because somebody went through a divorce and somebody doesn't value it, particularly in the lower price ranges. So if you meet somebody, ask them first of all about some example deals, so that you and ask them why people would sell these properties so cheap. And usually the reason why people sell this property so cheap is that they have some kind of a life event happen or so, or they believe it might be just in our land side, there's less events happening. It might be just a birthday. They might have turned 65 and they're like, okay, I'm retiring right now. Let me get rid of some expenses, and land only costs property taxes as you hold on to it. So they're asking their kids, hey kids, do you want this piece of land? And the land might only be worth $20,000 a piece. So, and the kid's like, no, Dad, I don't need the land. I live in New York City, living la vida loca. The land is in Texas. I don't want it. So, and then, okay, in that moment, our direct mail, our letter hits them, and they're like, well, let me call what they want. And since they don't want to deal with it, they don't want to have to worry about it, and they don't want to, they might have only bought it for $5,000 20 years ago. So they're like, how much do you give me? And it's like, I'll give you $4,000. And they're like, $4,000? Sure. Let's just, I'm gotten rid of it. And then you go, if it's truly worth 20, you go to the market and you sell it either for like 12, we sell 12 for cash, make an $8,000 profit. Or what we do is sell it with seller financing at full market price, have them give us a $4,000 down payment, which is what we paid for it, and then do seller financing. But back to your question is, what do I tell people? I tell people that there is work involved, absolutely, that it is in essence a numbers game. But the other part I tell people is that they should be looking for areas of real estate investing that they can handle. Like, for example, when somebody 17 years ago told me about a $6 million apartment complex that I need to put in $900,000 in improvements afterwards, and I would have to raise $2 million from investors, I would have screamingly run away the other direction, because it would have been way too complex for my back then understanding of real estate, right? Today, that's the kind of deal we have on our contract right now. And it's like, I don't lose sleep over it. It's just, I think we started raising money with our friends and family like 2 days ago, about a week ago, and next week we'll have all the money that we need probably. So, but back again, I want to address the question one more time. When somebody tells me like, is that real? It's like, yes, it's real. Is every deal going to be a $50,000 deal? No, right? Is every deal going to be a $100,000 deal? Are you going to do 10 of those a month? No, right? But our average deal is anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000. So in profit. And our average deal is something that you purchase for $3,000 and sell for $10,000, right? And so that is very possible. But the key to it is that you go after a real estate method that you can actually grasp and that you can actually deal. And for example, multifamily back then would have been way too complicated for me. House flipping was way too complicated for me at the time. We actually tried house flipping and we failed because we didn't know how to estimate the cost of repairing a kitchen and a bathroom and a roof and a foundation and electric and so on. And that house needed all of it. Yeah. So as a result, we estimated everything wrong, put it under contract, and nobody would buy it from us, which makes sense, right? Because the other people that would have bought it from us knew what they were doing. We were not what we were doing. But on land, if you have a $30,000 piece of land that the owner just has owned for 30 years, perhaps they listed it on the market doing the down market, or they wanted full market price for it and so on. Then they didn't get rid of it, nobody bought it. Or they put really often listings are really, really horrible. And there's many reasons why this property didn't sell. Perhaps they're willing to sell that property now to us just to get rid of it because their kids don't want it. And then we have developed a step-by-step method that requires work, but much less work than houses in order to do that. And lastly, the question is also look for if there's competition. Houses has massive amounts of competition. That's why most people get bad deals. And that's why when people start into that area, they usually have a bad experience because there is so few deals out there, or if there's a good deal out there, everyone is fighting over it, and the more experienced people often get the deal. Yeah. Or as a non-experienced people, you end up paying too much, like it happened to us initially. But in the land area, there is almost no competition. So you still need to evaluate what is the value of the property. You still need to put it under contract, and you need to know how to sell it. But this is there's much less tentacles because we don't have to estimate repairs. We don't have to get a bank loan. We don't have to make payments on it. We don't have to do those things. So it's an easier to grasp concept, easier to wrap around your arms around. And that's why our student success quota is way higher than it is for the house flippers.
Cool. Well, that's great. So now in any deal, obviously you need to find the deal. You need to find the piece of land that you want to buy, and you need to figure out, what is the urgency for the seller. And then obviously once you acquire that piece of land, you need to find the buyer. So do you have any secret sauce or whatever you can share in terms of these two core aspects of making this deal? How do you find the seller who's motivated? How do you find the buyer?
Yeah, so I can perhaps answer that by laying out the quick process of how our system works. So the first step in our system is that we focus on people on areas, on three kind of areas. Either infill lots in the city; those are the hardest to get. You have to do a lot of effort to get those, but then you make a lot of profit. But our two favorite ways is that we go right on the outside of bigger cities, like what's called the path of growth. So we already know that these areas are growing, that they're attractive to buyers, and that's why we're there. And the second kind of property we like, other than, of course, the infill lots and these ones, and really the third one, is the larger acres in rural areas, because that attracts a lot of the RV and ATV and dirt bike folks and the hikers and the hunters. And there's millions of them in the United States. So our first focus is we focus on the kind of properties that we know we can sell quickly at the end. Right? Yeah. So that's the first piece. Then what we do is we actually, in order to select a county, we go look for like growing areas, and then we could just go outside of that growth a little bit, where there's not a big competition yet for lots, but where at the end of the day we can still get properties quickly and inexpensively, because I said there's not much competition for them. The next thing then afterwards is the way we do that is we actually go and get a list of that county. Let's say if this is Orlando, Florida, right outside of it, there might be another county that a city grows towards. So we go to the county or go to a data service and we go get a list of the people that own land in that county. So then what we do is we now contact those people and we do that by mail. We do that by mail in a way that we ask them to call us back. And there's a very specific letter we use. Once they call us back, we actually have somebody else talk to them. We hire a call center for that. It can all be outsourced, all be automated. and then the call center talks to them, and we don't actually, and the call center takes some notes about their level of motivation. So you hear it out of their phone call, but it's really not as important as people think, because we're going to make an offer on every single person. So basically, by our filter criteria, by knowing who to contact, we already have honed in on the people that are very likely to want to get rid of their properties. Then, once they do it, we send them a written offer. Either accept or they don't accept the offer. And this is, again, this is not, there's a little work involved. So it's not much, because you don't have to go and check out every single property for a roof and foundation and this and this and that and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, they don't have to do any of that. You just go on your computer and through Google Maps and Google Earth and Zillow and places like that, you figure out what is this property worth. And based on that, you make your offer. Now, typically, on average, our students send out about 300 to 500 letters to get one deal accepted. So it turns into a numbers game. It turns into a scalable cookie cutter business system that if you hone in on the right counties and the right people, and for every 3 to 500 letters, you get a deal. And so you send the offers, they get a deal. Now, in other words, what we also, because there's nobody in our space, like all the real estate people on the house flipping, right? In our land space, it's almost competition free. You get response rates that sometimes are above 10%. Our house flippers get response rates that are like below 1%. We get often response rates that are between like 5 and 15% is pretty normal. So now once we've done that, so as a result, when we send out, let's say 1,000 letters, we might get 100 phone calls. And out of those 100 phone calls, typically, if it's 1,000 letters, it should be like 2 or 3 deals should be in there. Now on average, right? 2 or 3 deals should be in there. So now we send out 1,000 letters, we get let's say 2 deals. And now that was worth the effort, right? You would want to spend $600 in mailings to get 2 deals that make you $5,000 to $15,000 each. And then on the selling side, and then it doesn't matter. Like that means though, if we got a 10% response rate, that means we only got 1 offer accepted for every 50 offers we made.
Yeah.
Right? So we can work with that. We don't actually have to, we don't sit down with them at the kitchen table and sell them and convince them and negotiate with them. It's like they already self-identify themselves by calling us and saying, yes, I want it. And part of the script we walk them through, they tell us a few things that tell us, oh, they're very motivated or they're not so. And then we use that to make our offers. And then we had like, typically actually the acceptance rate is more like in the 25, for every 25 offers you make, you get 1 accepted. But in this example, conservatively, for every 50. And then once we have the property under contract, now comes the marketing. And the biggest piece in the marketing is really that you need to understand who you market the property to. Most people do that wrong. Mostly, and you can pull up Zillow right now, or if you're listening or watching this right now, you can pull up Zillow right now and just look for land. Go outside of the city, click on some land properties, and just see how the majority of them are produced. And you will be cringing because most of them are just horrible, horrible listings. They consist of a Google area picture, not even aerial picture, like a map picture, and a 2-liner that says, this property is available for sale. That's how realtors trying to sell these properties, because what most people that own real estate, what own land do, is they have owned it for 20, 30 years. They want to sell it. They go to their neighbor. Now, their neighbor is a hobby house realtor. So this person sells houses, like 5 houses a year on the weekend. That person doesn't have the first clue how to market a piece of land, which is not harder, just different. So they treat it, because in the houses, they're used to getting a photographer in and showing pictures of the different rooms and doing open houses and stuff like that. Well, you can't do that on the land. But you're going to take pictures of the dirt. You don't do that, right? So instead, what they do is exactly that. They get an aerial picture. They don't know what to describe about it because to them it's just dirt, and that's what they list. And then they wonder why nobody buys that property. So what we do different is we have a completely different approach to the thing. And our different approach is that we're asking ourselves the question, who is the perfect buyer for this property? Well, if the perfect buyer for this property is a hunter, because it's 40 acres, 2 hours away from town, or somebody that likes to be the RV, then we are going to take pictures or find pictures with permission, of course. We don't just take pictures of the web. We ask permission of the authors. Take pictures of like elk, and take pictures of the local town, and take pictures of the local restaurants, and I take pictures of the things that are out there, and the lakes and the rivers and the hiking trails and so on. And we put that into our picture, because what we are actually selling is not the lot. What we're selling, of course we're selling it a lot, but what we're selling is the dream of them being able to go out for the weekend, hunt and fish and hike and dirt bike and bring their campers and have s'mores and those kind of things. That's what we're selling. So as a result, we're going to tell a story in our listing, which is very simple to do. You just need to have the steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. And obviously, that's what we're teaching now. We have courses and so on. And so on, that is, so that makes a difference. So you now have somebody who listed their property 10 years ago with their neighbor who's a hobby realtor, who doesn't have a clue how to sell this property, and therefore it didn't sell. Because of that, the seller thinks the property is worthless. Because of that, they're giving the property to us for cheap. And all we do is we're putting out there, we're telling this beautiful story about it, framing it around with a bunch of really nice pictures, and then we're selling this property at top market price. That's really is. It's really like real estate arbitrage here.
Awesome. That's great. And does this work in any country, or is it specific to USA?
So it probably works from a human psychology's point of view in every country in the world. But in every country of the world, there's people that have, even in my own family in Germany, when my grandparents passed away on my mother's side, they inherited a small house with a couple of apartments in it. One of which my grandparents lived, and the other ones were rented. And a lot next door. And then outside of the little village that they lived, in the middle of nowhere really, but a couple of miles out, they inherited 3 pieces of land, 3 lots. Guess what the community of heirs did? They sold it, right? They sold it very quickly, and they sold it. These lots were both probably worth $6,000 to $8,000 each. So small, not that valuable lots. They sold it for $1,000 a piece to somebody. Nice. That was before we started that business. But remember it, so it works everywhere. The reason, though, why we and pretty much all of our students only do this in the United States is that in the United States, there's no such thing, really, if I dare to say that, no such thing like privacy laws. In other words, real estate information, who is the owner, where does the owner live, their mailing address, all this kind of pieces of information are 100% of public knowledge. So you can go to your local county, pay them perhaps $100 or $200, sometimes $300, and say like, I would like, and sometimes it's even free, I would like to get a list of all the pieces of land that you have in this parcel, also called the vacant land list. You can say, give me that. Or you can go to a data service right now on online, log on and download 1,000, 2,000, 10,000, 100,000, as many records as you will. Obviously, there's a price for that, but you can download the records and then send your mailings out tomorrow, because the records will include the address of the owner. So most other countries don't offer. If you try that in Germany, try to find out where somebody lives, who the owner is, and where they live of a piece of real estate, it's impossible. You won't get that information. And most countries outside of the United States have stricter privacy rules than the United States has. So as a result, the reason this, from a human psychology point of view, it probably works everywhere. From a practicality point of view, getting access to the data, being able to send them a letter and so on, the United States is the holy grail for this business.
Awesome. That's great. Well, thank you so much for being with us and sharing this unique opportunity with us. Now, before I let you go, can you tell us how people can reach out to you?
Sure, absolutely. We have 2 ways. Number one is you can go to our website, which is www.landprofitgenerator.com, landprofitgenerator.com, because that's what we do. We take land, we generate profits with it. So landprofitgenerator.com. Or also, if somebody might say like, this still sounds too good to be true, I don't know if I can believe this, come and join us in our Facebook group. We have a Facebook group where we, as well as a lot of our successful students, are hanging out there. And there's literally almost not a single day or not more than 2 days pass without somebody posting another success story where they bought another property for $6,000 that is worth $50,000. Just somebody has just saw posted that they got $100,000 property for $20,000 under contract. And the way we do that is that, and so feel free to join us. This group is called Land Profit Generator Real Estate Investing Group. So if you look on Facebook, it's on Facebook. So Land Profit Generator Real Estate Investing Group. It's free, right? It's free. You can just join, peek in, take a look at it, and convince yourself that this works, that this is truly something. So that's why I'm not afraid of the question that you asked on, like, does this really work? And then sounds too good to be true. Well, there is still a couple of real estate methods that really, really work, and this is one of them. House flipping, we consider ourselves the rescuer of house flippers, because a lot of people try house flipping, got frustrated like crazy after like a year, and then they come over to us, and all of a sudden they succeed.
Awesome, that's great. Well, once again, thank you so much for being with us, and best of luck with your business. And I hope everybody joins the Facebook group and learns from you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for having me.
Great. Thank you so much. And that's all for now. Until next time. Now, if you're an entrepreneur or a career professional, then I invite you to join our growing community. Navigate to bootstrapping.group. As a welcome bonus, you will get the Startup Founders Technology Accelerator video series and Mastering Your Inner Game video series absolutely free. This series of short videos address some core issues which are instrumental in helping you move forward in your business or career. The videos are yours to view and share for free. No obligations or strings attached, except for one. You have to take action and implement it. So join us today. Navigate to bootstrapping.group. If you want more engaging videos and insightful interviews with industry's thought leaders, then check out the other videos we have picked for you. The link is right there. And if you want to be notified about our new content, please do consider subscribing to our channel.